Hello peoples, before we get into this video I do want to say that this was recorded 3 months ago, so I just want to get that out of the way because I'm in a different setup because my parents were on a trip, so that's why I'm in a different setup, and yeah, and enjoy. Hello peoples, I am currently house sitting right now, so that's why I'm in a different setup. I'm also dog watching, so if you hear any barks or rustlings, that's why, because this is going to be a little bit of a long video because I have 11 seasons of a show to rank, and that is The Walking Dead. I've been watching this show for quite a while now. I binged it on Netflix, and by the time I was done binging what was already out, I was on season 6. And so for half the show, I've been watching it weekly up until a certain point. And I won't reveal that until we get into the ranking, and you'll see what season I just kind of dropped out and then waited to binge the rest. So let's just get right into it. Coming in at number 11 is season 8. This season was trying to undo the wrongs of season 7, but failed and made the show even worse. Most people that I know that watch the show, in fact, the only people that I knew that watched the show, every single one of them dropped out during this season on the episode that, spoiler alert, on the episode that Carl died. Every person I know, not people that don't even know each other, they all dropped out at that episode. I wasn't completely dropped out yet. There's actually another season that made me drop out, and this is not the season, to be completely honest, because there's some entertaining things here, but at the end of the day, it was just action sequence after action sequence after action sequence, and it didn't feel like we got anything done until maybe the last couple episodes, where we get a conclusion to the Negan storyline. Yes, it's enjoyable to watch the characters that we like, but it is a aimless season. It feels like it thought the audience just wanted action, and so it would try to give it to us. It didn't work, and it's overall the most frustrating season and my least favorite of the 11. Coming in at number 10 is a surprising ranking. I know most people have this probably a little bit higher than I do, but that is season 10. This was the season that made me say, you know what, I'm not going to watch season 11, and I'm just going to wait till it's on Netflix. And that's what I did for the last 2 weeks, I believe. I just binged season 11, and thank God I waited to binge that, and I'll get into a reason why once we get to that season. But season 10, by the time you get to season 10, I felt like I didn't recognize the characters anymore. It was dragging out this Whisperer storyline, which I loved. I love the Whisperers, but season 10 took it and just made it so boring. I wasn't attached. I had a hard time getting from episode to episode. You know, I like the Whisperers. I like the idea of them. It's just, it was dragged out, and it didn't really feel like they knew what they were doing. That's a common problem throughout this whole show. There's many episodes throughout the whole entire show where it just feels like pretty aimless and doesn't really know what it wants to do. Overall, I will say that this show as a whole could have been about 4 or 3 seasons shorter, and the show would have been perfectly fine. But no, we have a couple extra seasons, some good, some bad. Yeah, season 10, I just wasn't a fan of the characters I was watching. I wanted more of the characters that I liked and less of the new characters that I did not get attached to at all. Of course, like I said, some cool Whisperer stuff, and the filmmaking of it got better after seasons like 6, 7, and 8, but still overall a season I was very unattached to. I had no attachment to it, no matter how much better the filmmaking was. Coming in at number 9 is season 7. This was the season that was kind of boring. I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan. He's probably my favorite of the villains. And I overall really, really like the character, but it's another season where it just felt like they didn't know where they were going. I feel like this has the source material. The Walking Dead is a very, very popular comic, so why can't they just go off that? I just feel like they want to drag this show out, and once I'm done with this video, or actually when I get to season 11, you'll see why I find this show a little bit frustrating. But season 7, I liked Negan, I liked Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I liked where they took the characters, but story-wise, there was almost nothing beyond the first episode. And then it was just kind of meandering. Oh, we're going to go check out this location. We're going to check out this new location. We're going to add this new character. But where was it going? Nowhere. Season 7 was set up for season 8. That season 8 was just a prolonged action sequence that did nothing. So season 7, it didn't work for me. It was another season that just had me go, oh, whatever. I don't hate this season. There are episodes that I like. I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan, but beyond that, there is nothing much more to it. Coming in at number 8 is Season 6. There's nothing... This season isn't bad, and in fact, this is where... From here, all these are good seasons of the show. It just varies to how good or, But Season 6 is where we're really starting to learn more and more about Alexandria, and we're hyping up Negan. And they did a pretty good job at that, because the anticipation to Negan in that season finale, I know some people don't care for that season finale. I think it's a pretty good idea to get people to watch the next season, but this next season has to be a great payoff, but it wasn't. And that's what maybe put Season 6 a little bit lower than maybe I should put it. There are some really thrilling episodes here. I really liked putting our characters back in a normal society and seeing the effects of that. And we do see that in another season as well that is much higher on this list. But Season 6, like the other seasons, at some points as well felt a little aimless. Someone asked me, like, what Season 6 was about, I kind of blank. I can tell you what Season 7, 8, 10, and all the other seasons are about. I just know Season 6 is an enjoyable season that felt aimless. At least this season felt like it was building to something, and maybe felt like there was a little bit of direction, but there's something always interesting going on with our characters. And that's what I like about Season 6, because by the time you get to the latter half of the show, I'm like, I don't recognize any of these characters anymore, and I don't have the attachment to them. So Season 6, we still have our characters there, and I'm enjoying watching what they're doing. Compelling from a character perspective, but story-wise, I felt as well detached. Coming in at number 7 is Season 11. That's the one I just got done watching, and maybe it's a little bit higher because I just got done watching it, but that's not to say that this season doesn't have its problems. I'll say what I do like about this season. I like the Commonwealth. I really like the idea of that, kind of like Alexandria on steroids. Overall, like the season, but I found my enjoyment of this season to be very waxing and waning, because there's one episode I watch it and I'm like, oh my god, the show's back, I love this, and the next episode happens and I'm like, this is dumb. So it was just kind of back and forth. Did this need to be 24 episodes? God, no. This did not need to be 24 episodes long. And so I feel like this season was supposed to be even longer, because I felt like they were trying to go through so much source material, but didn't know how to handle it, and condensed, I feel like, storylines that were supposed to be longer and put it into 2 episodes. So you have like these 2 episode storylines that feel like they should be grander and more fleshed out. Since they only make it 2 episodes, it just feels pointless and like another aimless season. I think they just have a hard time going through the source material and knowing what to use, how much of it to use, because it really shows the most in this season. What I do like about the season is that it really focused a little bit more on our characters. Like I said, I do like the Commonwealth, and we did focus on the Commonwealth quite a bit. It's not my favorite season. It's not my favorite villains of the show, but I liked, I like the idea of it. I liked the idea of a 50,000 community, and they have like a government. I just thought that was really, really interesting. And then the finale happened, and while I enjoyed the finale, the last couple minutes kind of just had me a little numb, because they're doing montages of the characters that we've lost, but then we do some setups for other shows, and I'm like, so the Walking Dead is ending, but the characters that I care about are getting their own spin-off shows, and their storylines aren't even complete. So I felt a little unsatisfied. Yes, I was just kind of happy that the show was done. I don't even know if I'm going to watch these spin-off shows, which really sucks, because it's the characters I care about. I just don't trust the people that are running this show anymore, because they don't care about what they're making. They're caring how long they can make it for and how much money they can make off of it. It just feels greedy to me, because this show should have ended a long time ago. And while I don't hate this season, I like the idea of, Commonwealth, and I don't think there was any unbearable episodes, maybe 1 or 2. And I think this season did get better as it goes, and it just was a frustrating last couple minutes, and the ideas of ending the show, but just ending the show on a tease for you to watch other shows. It's just manipulative, particularly the way they ended it with certain characters. They try to get you emotional, and I felt kind of manipulated and controlled to make me force watch the other shows. Yeah, they did some very frustrating stuff with Daryl that just felt like filler to me. Again, that felt like it should have been longer, but they just condensed it to make it 1 season. of 24 episodes. And so it's weird that I just think they should have done the 16 episode thing, take out the stupid storylines that they wanted to put in, make it solely about the Commonwealth, and not do a stupid tease at the end to watch 3 other shows. Make me satisfied as an audience knowing that the show I've been watching for a long, long time end the proper way instead of the way of, oh, but you gotta watch these shows. It's a very complex season where I enjoyed it, but I have my gripes about it as a final season. Coming in at number 6 is Season 4. Season 4 is one of those seasons that I love the first half. Like, I love the first half, and I don't dislike the second half. I just find it slow. It feels aimless, but I enjoyed the episodes that we got from that last half. My favorite storyline of this whole show is the prison. It was still nice to see that in the first half, and I think as Season 4 was more consistent with the way it was telling its story, this would be a lot higher on the list. And it's not that I don't dislike this season, because I do like it. It's just that latter half just kind of has me like, oh, we're building up to another villain that kind of has a slight payoff in the first episode of Season 5. It has one of the more iconic episodes of the final battle with the governor and Hershel's iconic death. Some very shocking imagery there, and some very fun action for some public television. So Season 4 was enjoyable, yet that second half just kind of has me a little thrown off a little bit. Coming in at number 5 is Season 2. I know people hate this season, but I quite enjoy it. Of course, it's maybe the slowest paced, but it's focused on the characters, and the villains of the show aren't necessarily other communities. It was someone within it. It was Shane. Jon Bernthal? I can't say his name. He's a great actor, and so to see him shine over here, and he was a very compelling villain. He had a lot of great moments. The idea of the farm and just trying to survive in the zombie apocalypse, since the show was still so new, it was still fresh. It was compelling to see, and to add all these new characters like Maggie, and just to see the everyday life on a farm, but with the zombie apocalypse, with tension going on within our characters, is not an idea that I minded at all. Was it worth 13 episodes? That's the only thing that has been kind of iffy, but overall, it was still a pretty great season. Coming in at number 4 is Season 5. This is a little bit like Season 2, but just a little bit better, because it probably had a higher budget. It is not on a farm. This time it's just on the road. And of course the back half, not half, I don't remember exactly, but later into the season is when we introduce Alexandria. And it has some of the most interesting ideas out of the whole entire show, because you're throwing these characters into almost kind of like society again, and you just see them try to fit in, and it's very interesting to see the way that they did it. It almost makes you look at the show in a mirror and sucks you out of it and shows you how far they've evolved since the show began. And so I think that was a nice little mirror. And maybe this show could have just ended there. Maybe that would have been a good spot to end it. The first half was just them on the road, and you see them deal with everyday problems. And it's the most desperate we probably see our characters, because they're just going from house to house, and you see them together. One of the more memorable episodes is they have to face a storm and zombies at the same time. It shows how, right now, how of a society, how privileged we are compared to what can be if we were in a zombie apocalypse. Coming in at number 3 is Season 1, the opening season to this show. Obviously, without Season 1, we wouldn't be here. It introduced the idea of zombies, it brought it to a big scale, it was compelling, we had great characters. Obviously, only 2 characters from that season were still around by the final episode. It was a great start, it had compelling characters. The zombies were gruesome, you see in big city, very simple, it's only 6 episodes, an hour each. You see them desperately try to go to the CDC, and the idea of that now is just so funny to think about, that they literally try to go to the CDC once it all started. It had some amazing writing. It didn't necessarily have to have a villain, because you had the zombies, and so you got a lot of great character drama, great dynamics, and it made for a very, very great first season. Coming in at number 2 is not something it might feel a little out of place, but it's Season 9. Season 9 was such an amazing season of this show. And I'm shocked to say that, because after Season 7 and 8, I'm like, I don't know about this show anymore. Then season 9 happens. I'm like, oh my god, I'm in. And then the people that I know that gave up the show halfway through season 8, I was like, just power through it and watch season 9. But I couldn't convince any of them, sadly. Season 9 was really, really good. The first couple episodes, you have the Rick episodes, and then Rick leaves, which I still am not the biggest fan of that idea, but it doesn't affect the quality of the rest of the season, because the rest of season 9 was still really, really good. And we also do have a huge time jump after that, and so that makes it more compelling to see our characters so many years later, where you see where Daryl is, where Carol is, where the King Ezekiel is, where Judith is, which actually ended up being one of the more standout characters within seasons 9 through 11. I know people hate him. I really like the character of Henry, and what they do with him later is quite disturbing. The only thing that doesn't actually make this number one of the show is that the season finale just kind of felt out of place and pointless. Everyone was like, oh, it's Snow in The Walking Dead, and that's really all there was prior to a huge, shocking reveal of the heads on the pikes, and then we go to a Snow episode, and then the season's done. It just felt like a weird season finale compared to the previous episode being phenomenal. But overall, season 9, it had me happy about the show again. It brought the characters that I liked forward. We had Michonne, we had Rick, Daryl, Carol, Maggie. Wait, was Maggie in this season? I actually don't remember. I know she left, but I don't remember what season she left during. I think it was season 9 and 10. It was a very reflective season on the past, and of course you gotta love the Rick Grimes character, and the way, even though I'm still not the biggest fan of the idea of his exit, the way they did his exit was pretty good. And coming in at number 1 is season 3. Season 3 is probably my favorite of the show, just because I love the idea of the prison. I love where they took all the characters. I love the governor as an antagonist. I know people didn't care for the Michonne and Andrea storyline. Exploring the governor's community, I don't remember the name of it, what they called it, was still very interesting, even though Andrea was very frustrating. And of course we got Michonne, and she's awesome. Even though the governor stuff maybe felt out of place, it still entered itself into its storyline because it was characters we were familiar with, and I did very much enjoy that. The prison, I think that's just when the show is at its prime. Season 3, when we introduce the prison, it's very exciting to have an oasis in something like a prison. It shows like almost kind of like the beauty of the zombie apocalypse, how if in disaster we find beauty in something like a prison and make something like a community out of it. So I thought that was very well done. The zombies were as scary as ever. And yeah, that's my ranking of the seasons. Overall, this should have ended at season 6 at most. I will give that seasons 9, 10, and 11 did understand the horror element a little bit more, even though I didn't care for season 10 very much. It at least brought back a scary-like atmosphere that seasons 7 and 8 were missing. Of course, like season 7 had Negan, but he was so enjoyable to watch. I didn't find him scary because I just loved Jeffrey D. Morgan. And overall, am I sad to see this show go? When I was watching the finale, I was like, oh, yeah, this is the finale. I wish it kept going. But by the time I gave myself 5 minutes after it was done, I was like, that should have ended a long, long time ago. Because the viewership of the show just majorly dropped after season 7 or 8, and I just wish that they didn't try to milk this as much as they are. I'm going to maybe try the Rick and Michonne show, but the Daryl show, I'm not interested, to be honest. And I know they're doing one more show, but I don't even remember whose character it is, which means I'm probably not going to watch it. But if the Rick and Michonne show just feels like more meandering, I don't know if I'm going to even watch that. The only thing that has that drive in me to keep on watching and see what happens is that I just want to see the Rick, Michonne, Judith, RJ reunion. That's the only thing I want to see and feel unsatisfied about, because I feel like that's a Walking Dead storyline. It should be concluded in The Walking Dead. The fact that they're doing this spin-off, I'm just kind of maybe interested just because I want to see that, but I'm frustrated by the fact that it's playing out this way. So yeah, that's my ranking of the seasons. Last time I did this ranking when season 9 or 10 ended, y'all did not like my ranking. People told me that my take on season 4 was wrong, but I did rewatch most of these seasons since I did that video, and I was like, okay, maybe I was a little wrong about this, but I do know I have season 4 ranked a little bit higher than most people. Overall, The Walking Dead's done. I watched the whole entire thing. I rarely get to say that about a show. Most of the time, I don't watch all of an 11-season show, and I just start it and drift off at one point. But this is the first time I can say I watched a show that's this long, and as someone that's a big media person, it's kind of weird for me to say something like that. But I'm just not as much of a TV show person as I am a movie person. The Walking Dead has something that's always compelled me. So It's done. Kind of glad it's over. Frustrated at the same time. The show had its moments. This was a good show. You know, it had its issues. I thought the production design with the zombies, the makeup, all that looked phenomenal throughout all of the seasons. The idea of the zombie apocalypse, the tone, I thought was very, very great. I love the characters, except for a select few that were frustrating, but most of them die anyway, so that's good. A show with a lot of pros, but sadly, I feel like the people that run it behind the scenes didn't really do the best job in the world. So yeah. Anyways, comment down below what your ranking is of these seasons. I'm very curious to see what people think. So yeah, like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that, and adios.